Good day, everyone. For today's discussion, we are going to discuss the Chapter 4, which is non-current asset held for sale and discontinued operations. Non-current asset is an asset that doesn't meet the definition of a current asset. According to PFRS 5, it prescribes the accounting for assets held for sale, including disposal groups, and the presentation and disclosure of discontinued operations. Sinasabing ang asset na non-current alinsunod sa past 1 ay makaklassified as current asset kung ito ay mamimit ang criteria under ng PFRS 5 at makaklassified as held for sale. Ang non-current asset ay kilala din bilang disposal group, which is disposal group is a group of assets to be disposed of by sale or otherwise, together as a group in a single transaction and liabilities directly associated with those assets that will transferred in transaction. Ang mga sumusunod ay non-current asset within the scope of PFRS 5, which is the property, plant, and equipment, investment property measured under the cost method, investment in associate, subsidiary, or joint venture, and intangible assets. Next one, ito naman yung mga outside the scope of PFRS na non-current asset, which is deferred tax assets, assets arising from employee benefits, financial assets within the scope of PFRS 9, financial instruments, investment property measured under the fair value model, biological asset, and contractual rights under insurance contracts. Classifications as held for sale. It is a non-current asset or disposal group that is classified as held for sale or held for distribution to owners if its carrying amount will be recovered principally through a sale transaction rather than through continuing use. Sinasabi lang sa held for sale na mas magkakaroon ka ng tinatawag na economic benefits kung yung asset mo ay ibebenta mo rather than gagamitin ito na patuloy-tuloy. Meron din tayo mga conditions for the classification as held for sale. A non-current asset or disposal group held for sale if both of the following conditions are met. First is the non-current asset or disposal group is available for immediate sale in its present condition subject only to terms that are usual and customary. Sinasabi dito na ang sumusunod na non-current asset ay pwede nang ibenta kung anumang kondisyon niya. Ibig sabihin, wala kang babaguhin sa condition ng non-current mo at yun yung mismong ibenta mo dun sa exact date na gusto mo siyang ibenta. Letter B. The sale is highly probable as evidenced by the existence of all the following. First is the entity management is committed on selling the asset. Ibig sabihin, may commitment siya or plano na ibenta yung certain asset na gusto niyang ibenta. Letter B. The entity is actively locating a buyer. If may plan na siya and commitment to sell an asset, dapat simulan niya na yung paghahanap ng buyer na willing bumili na binibenta niyang asset. Next, the sale price is reasonable in relation to the assets or disposal group current fair value. Sinasabi lang dito na dapat yung price mo na binibenta dun sa asset mo is reasonable sa pinaka-current fair value niya. Hindi masyadong mataas o hindi masyadong mababa, yung price dapat sakto lang. Pag masyado kasing mataas, wala magtatangkang bumili nito. Pag sobrang baba naman, parang pinapamigay mo na lang yung asset mo para masabing nabenta mo siya. Next, the sale is expected to be completed within 1 year from the date of classification. Yung pagbebenta ng asset, dapat makompleto siya within 1 year through, though hindi naman laging namimit to dahil may exemptions tayong tinatawag dito sa 1-year rule na to. 5. It is unlikely that the plan to sell will be withdrawn. Sinasabi dito sa 5 na to na once na makapagplano ka na at may buyer ka na dun sa asset na binibenta mo, hindi mo na siya pwedeng i-withdraw pa. Next, illustrations naman. Um, this is the illustration for availability for immediate sale in present condition. ABC Corporation is committed to a plan to sell its headquarters, believing and has initiated actions to locate buyer. Ang case 1, ABC Corporation has an intention to transfer ownership of a building to a buyer after it vacates the building. Ang analysis dito is, yung building is makaklassified pa rin siya as non-current asset held for sales. Dahil na-meet naman niya yung one of the conditions which is na binigay sa previous slide, which sinasabi doon na nagkaroon ng plan commitment date sa pagbebenta ng asset. Another case is ABC Corporation will continue to use the building until the construction of a new headquarters is completed. Dito sa case 2 na to, hindi siya makaklassified, yung building hindi siya makaklassified as non-current asset held for sale. Since hindi naman na-meet yung one of the conditions like magkaroon ng delay in selling at hindi naging available yung asset for an immediate sale. Ito na yung sinasabi natin na exception dun sa number 5 dun sa nakaraang slide, which is the exception to the 1-year rule. It is an asset that is not sold within 1 year from the date of its classification as held for sale is reclassified back to its previous classification as held for sale is reclassified back to its previous classification. However, the asset is continued to be classified as held for sale if the following conditions are met. The first one is the delay is caused by events beyond entity's control. Ito yung mga delay na to, yun yung mga exemption sa 1-year condition na walang control yung entity or management sa nangyari. B, there is a sufficient evidence that the entity remains committed on selling the asset. Ang sinasabing sufficient evidence dito is the action na ginawa ng entity or management para mabenta pa nila yung asset na walang bumibili. Minsan, ang mga sufficient evidence na ganito is binababaan nila yung presyo para mabenta pa sa merkado. The illustration for exception to 1-year requirement is, in 2001, ABC Corporation classified a property as held for sale. The carrying amount prior to classification is 100 pesos, while the fair value less to sell is 90 pesos. The property is being sold at 90 pesos. During 2001, the market conditions that existed at the date the asset was classified initially as held for sale deteriorate, and as a result, the asset is not sold by the end of the period. During the period, ABC actively solicited but did not receive any reasonable offers to purchase the asset, and in response, ABC reduced the price from 90 to 80 pesos. Dito, ang analysis dito is magre-remain yung property to be classified as held for sale. Since yung management is gumagawa ng action para mabenta yung asset sa paraan ng pagbababa ng ulang selling price nila, which is the 90 pesos na naging 80 pesos. Next is the exclusive view of subsequent disposal. It is a non-current asset that is acquired exclusively with a view of its subsequent disposal is classified as held for sale of the acquisition date if the sale within 1 year is met. Ang sinasabi dito is na-meet yung sale within 1 year requirement and was highly probably since na-meet siya within the short period of time after ng acquisition. Usually, dito sa exclusive view of subsequent disposal, nangyayari to within the 3 months lang at na-acquisite na yung ano niya.
Event after the reporting period, event that is treated as non-adjusting event after the reporting period. Nakaklassified lang ang isang event after the reporting period as held for sale if it found between the end of the reporting period and issuance after the financial statement. Property dividends. Ito yung mga pera o stock dividends na katumbas o kapalit sa mga gamit o pagmamayari ng isang entity na ibinibigay sa mga shareholders. Non-current asset that are to be abandoned. Ito yung mga hindi classified as held for sale kasi dapat yung carrying amount niya mas mapapakinabangan at mababawi o sa paraan ng pagbebenta. Measurement. It can be measured at the lower of carrying amount and fair value less cost to sell. Fair value uses current market values as the basis for recognizing certain assets and liabilities. Cost to sell, the accumulated total of all costs used to create a product or services which has been sold. Nasasabi lang na discounted ang isang cost to sell kapag yung palitan of present value ay lampas na sa isang taon. Also, held for sale asset that are acquired as part of the business are measured sa fair value less cost to sell, hindi sa fair value na nasa PFRS 3. Depreciation and amortization. Depreciation, ito yung mga hard asset like equipment, PPE, and vehicles. Amortization, ito naman yung mga non-hard asset or a financial assets like intangible assets. Example naman ito, yung mga license fee, goodwill, copyright, and franchises. Dito, hindi siya basta-basta maaring i-depreciate o i-amortize ang isang asset habang sila ay kabilang sa held for sale.
In this illustration, kailangan nating mahanap yung lower of cost and fair value, less cost. Paano natin magagawa yun? First, we need to compute the carrying amount and the formula given is historical cost less accumulated depreciation. On our illustration, we have historical cost of 1.5 million and accumulated depreciation of 800,000. Pag niles natin siya, we can get the carrying amount of 700,000. Next is the fair value less cost to sell. Kailangan lang nating i-less yung fair value sa cost to sell, which is 450,000 less 25,000. We get 425,000 as fair value less cost to sell. Since mas mababa yung fair value less cost to sell sa carrying amount, yun yung gagamitin nating value ng building. Next, i-compute natin yung impairment loss noong 2001. And we can get that by subtracting the carrying amount to press na ba ako? Next, i-compute naman natin yung impairment loss noong 2001. And we can get that by subtracting the carrying amount to fair value less cost to sell, which is 700,000 less 425,000. So sa unang taon, XYZ Corporation have 275,000 impairment loss. In this next illustration, kailangan naman natin kunin yung impairment loss ng 2002. And we can get that by subtracting fair value less cost to sell ng 2001 and fair value less cost to sell ng 2002, which is 425,000 less 300,000. We can get 125,000 as impairment loss ng 2002. In this next illustration, kailangan nating makuha yung gain on reversal of impairment. And we need to compute for cumulative impairment loss and total recovery. And whichever is lower, yun yung marirecognize as gain on reversal of impairment. Cumulative impairment losses is simply adding the impairment losses that the building have noong 2001 and 2002, which is 275,000 plus 125,000. So we get the total of 400,000 as cumulative impairment losses. Next is the total recovery. Dito, kailangan nating i-minus yung fair value less cost to sell ng 2003 and fair value less cost to sell ng 2002, which is 400,000 less 300,000. So we get 100,000 as total recovery. Since mas mababa yung total recovery, yun yung i-recognize natin as gain on reversal of impairment.
In this image, makikita mo dito kung paano kinocompute yung disposal group. Dito sa illustration na given na makikita sa book, pinapakita dito yung mga accounts na masasama pag kinompute mo yung dispose of group.
Discontinued operation. Discontinued operation is a disposal group or is classified as held for sale that is a component of an entity and fits on the other PFRS 5 conditions, which is the non-current asset or disposal group is available for immediate sale in its present condition and when the sale is highly probable. It could be a component of a discontinued operation when it actually disposed at the earlier of the date and when the date of the criteria for classification as held for sale are met. Presentation of discontinued operation. In the statement of comprehensive income, the result of discontinued operation are presented individually as post-tax profit or loss or post-tax gain or loss in a single amount. Presentation in the Statement of Financial Position. Sa Chapter 4 o PFRS 5, sa Statement of Financial Position, ang asset at liabilities ng disposal group ay ipinipresenta ng magkahiwalay. Also, offsetting is not permitted on the Statement of Financial Position. Ang held for sale asset ay pinipresenta bilang current asset sa Statement of Financial Position.
Presentation in the statement of cash flow. Yung net cash flow ng non-current asset relating sa operating, investing, and financing activity shall be presented separately. And yung additional disclosure shall be made either on face of the statement of cash flow or sa notes.
And that's it for the discussion about the Chapter 4 non-current assets held for sale and discontinued operations. Thank you, everyone.